The fear of the regulars. The galaxy was wide and full of life, yet in its long history, most species had come to believe that wars were predictable. Empires rose and fell, battles were fought, and in the end, the stronger fleets with greater weapons always won. To alien minds, combat was a matter of numbers and technology. Whoever had the largest ships, the hardest armor, and the brightest beams of energy was expected to rule. That was the order of things. At least it was, until the humans arrived. When humans first stepped beyond their star system, they were considered young and untested. Other races thought of them as reckless and fragile. Their homeworld had been scarred by endless wars, yet in the eyes of the galaxy, that was only a mark of weakness. What no one understood at that time was that these endless struggles had shaped the humans into something different. While other species had grown in peace or in controlled, limited conflict, humanity had survived by constant trial. To aliens, human armies looked ordinary, nothing worth fearing. But soon the galaxy learned the truth. The first war came over a forgotten colony on the edge of space. An alien empire sent a fleet to take the planet from human settlers, believing resistance would crumble in days. They met the human military for the first time. The soldiers who stood there were not elite. They were not heroes or champions. They were the regulars, the common men and women pulled from Earth and trained in simple camps. Yet when the alien fleet landed, those soldiers refused to break. The aliens fought with numbers and advanced machines. They expected victory as routine, but the humans fought as if each battle was the end of the world. They moved with discipline, their lines holding firm against wave after wave. When one soldier fell, another stepped forward to take their place. Their armor was light, their weapons plain, but their will did not bend. The enemy soon realized that they were not fighting just for territory. The humans were fighting for survival, and that made them something far more dangerous. Stories of that battle spread quickly. An alien officer, who had once mocked the idea of human resistance, wrote in his final report that he had seen mad creatures who smiled through blood and pain, who advanced even when cut down, who seemed to treat death as nothing more than the cost of victory. His words became legend, whispered in the war councils of alien rulers. If this was only the regular army, what then was hidden behind them? The next conflict only deepened the fear. On a desert world, a human regiment was cut off, surrounded by 3 times their number. The aliens offered surrender, certain that no unit could fight on without food, water, or supply. The humans did not accept. For weeks they fought with whatever they could scavenge, turning wrecks into traps and ruins into fortresses. The desert wind carried the sound of their rifles night after night, until the aliens began to believe they were facing an entire army. When the siege finally ended, the humans had held the planet long enough for reinforcements to arrive. The attackers fled, leaving behind their dead and their shame. By then, the galaxy no longer called them reckless. They called them relentless. The word spread through the stars that human soldiers, even the lowest private in the line, would not surrender. Where others looked for survival, humans looked for victory or death. That spirit was not rare or hidden. It was common among their regulars, the soldiers who were supposed to be nothing special. An alien historian later wrote, "The regular humans are not warriors by design, but by nature." To them, war is not an art or a science, it is life itself. They endure hunger, pain, and despair, as if these are not curses, but companions. That line was repeated across the galaxy, and with it came dread. In time, human armies fought on countless worlds, jungles, frozen plains, barren moons, ruined cities. Each time the regulars proved the same. They adapted to every environment. They fought with whatever was at hand. They never gave the enemy the satisfaction of weakness. Entire species began to measure their own soldiers against the humans, and always they found themselves lacking. The galaxy had long believed that fear came from powerful weapons or great beasts of war. But the humans changed that belief. Fear now came from the sight of a simple helmet, a plain rifle, and the march of boots across the ground. When humans entered the field, the enemy no longer thought of easy conquest. They thought of losses, of long battles that would bleed them dry, of an enemy that did not break even when logic demanded retreat. This was the terror of the regulars. They were not trained to be legends. They were not chosen to be heroes. They were ordinary, yet they carried with them a spirit that turned battlefields into graves for their enemies. The galaxy had no word strong enough for it. In their reports and their frightened whispers, they called it madness. Humans called it duty. It was only the beginning. Alien rulers met in secret chambers, asking themselves the same question. If this was what the regulars could do, what else waited in the dark heart of humanity? If even their common soldiers could turn fleets and armies to ruin, what kind of warriors had they hidden away, waiting to be unleashed? The galaxy did not yet know the answer, but the shadow of that question fell across every empire, and in silence they all began to fear it. Whispers of the unseen. The galaxy had already learned to fear the human regulars. Reports of their stubborn courage had reached even the most distant empires. Commanders warned their soldiers that a fight against humans would not be simple. Still, the galaxy believed it had measured the full weight of Earth's armies. They thought they knew the limits, but then came whispers, soft, unclear, and full of dread. It started in shadowed corners of starports, where smugglers and spies shared hushed tales. A captain returning from the edge of war claimed he had seen a unit of humans who fought differently, not like the regulars. Faster, sharper, almost invisible. At first, the story was laughed at. Perhaps he had been drinking, perhaps he wanted attention. Yet soon the same tale surfaced again, told by a different mouth, in a different place. One alien merchant said an entire platoon of his world's finest troops had vanished in a single night. The survivors swore they had been hunted by only a handful of humans. Alien leaders dismissed it as rumor. They told themselves no such soldiers could exist. How could a young species like humanity train warriors beyond the regulars, who were already feared across the stars? But doubt spread, and with doubt came unease. On the battlefield, fear grew worse. Sometimes alien scouts would report a group of humans, no more than 10, slipping through defenses and vanishing again. Supplies went missing. Officers were found dead in their own camps. Whole patrols disappeared, leaving only silence behind. When questioned, the regular human soldiers said nothing. They marched, they fought, but they never spoke of any hidden warriors. That silence made the whispers louder. Alien councils gathered in secret to discuss the rumors. One advisor told his emperor that these soldiers were called special forces. The words felt heavy in the air, foreign yet filled with power. Another claimed to have intercepted human transmissions, speaking of missions unseen, victories unrecorded. The councils grew restless. If humans already fought with such strength in their regular armies, what would these special forces be like? The thought haunted them. In one empire, the High Marshal of Fleets confessed to his court that he feared the whispers more than the battles themselves. He had faced the human regulars and survived. He had seen their unyielding courage, their refusal to surrender. But the idea that somewhere out there, hidden in the dark, were human warriors even more dangerous, it left him awake at night. His words were recorded, though he did not know it, and they spread like a plague of fear across allied worlds. Rumors became stories. Stories became legends. Some said the special forces were humans who had trained on worlds harsher than any battlefield. Others swore they were bred in secret labs, created to be the perfect soldiers. A few even whispered that they were not entirely human anymore, but something darker, something improved beyond the natural. None of it was proven. All of it was feared. The regulars themselves seemed untouched by the gossip. When questioned, they gave no answers, only cold stares and a soldier's silence. But sometimes, when the battlefield grew too quiet and the stars burned too bright, alien soldiers thought they saw something moving in the shadows. A shape that was there and gone. A flicker of movement where no soldier should be. And then came the first real report. On a frozen moon, an alien garrison vanished in a single night. There were no sounds of battle, no marks of siege, only silence and ruins. The only survivors were two soldiers who fled into the ice. When they were found, their minds were broken with terror. Again and again, they repeated the same phrase. They came from nowhere. They moved like ghosts. Commanders tried to bury the report, but soldiers talk, and soon the story was known by all. No one could say for certain if it was the special forces, but everyone believed it. For the first time, alien soldiers entered battle, not only fearing the regulars in front of them, but the shadows around them. The galaxy was beginning to understand that humanity was not finished revealing its strength. The regulars had already changed war forever, but now there were whispers of something more, something unseen, something waiting. The alien rulers began to argue. Some said the whispers were lies, tricks spread by humans to weaken morale. Others insisted the danger was real, and that humanity had only shown a fraction of its true power. Neither side could sleep in peace, because whether the rumors were true or false, the effect was the same. The galaxy trembled. The humans remained silent. The regular armies fought on, fearless as always. And behind them, in the darkness, something stirred, unseen, unnamed, but very real. First contact with the shadow. The galaxy did not have to wait long before the whispers became flesh and blood. Until then, every tale of the special forces was rumor, smoke carried by frightened soldiers. No one had ever stood on a field and seen them with their own eyes. That changed on a barren frontier world. The world was called Kalos 7, a lifeless rock with thin air and endless plains of stone. An alien empire held the colony as a supply base. Hundreds of troops were stationed there, confident that no human could reach so deep into enemy space. They were wrong. It began with silence. The base woke one morning to find its comm towers dead. No signals reached the fleet above, no messages left the ground. Engineers swore the systems had been working the night before. Patrols were sent into the hills to check the cables, but none returned. At first, the commander thought it was human sabotage, perhaps by spies. Then the nights grew strange. Guards claimed to see movement at the edge of the floodlights, shapes that did not match the wind or dust. Weapons fired into the dark, but they struck only stone. On the fourth night, the enemy revealed itself. A squad of 12 humans entered the base through the southern wall. They did not storm the gates. They did not march in lines. They moved like shadows, slipping past cameras and guards. By the time alarms rang, they were already inside. The alien troops believed they were facing an entire army. The speed, the precision, the silence, it did not belong to regular soldiers. It belonged to something else. The humans attacked with discipline, sharper than any blade. Every strike was perfect. Every shot found its mark. They did not waste time with glory or noise. They came, they killed, and they vanished. The base filled with confusion. Soldiers screamed orders, weapons fired blindly, but the humans never gave them a target to strike. They moved too fast, too silent, cutting down officers before orders could spread. By dawn, the garrison was broken. Out of hundreds of troops, only a few survived, fleeing into the plains. The supply base, once strong, was nothing but ruins and ash. The survivors told stories that chilled even their leaders. They said the humans wore no heavy armor, no shining emblems. Their gear was plain, almost invisible. Yet their eyes burned with focus, and their movements were not natural. They flowed like smoke, striking and vanishing before fear could turn into resistance. One survivor swore he had locked eyes with one of them only once. The human's face was calm, almost emotionless, as if the killing was nothing more than another task. When the Empire heard the report, they refused to believe it at first. 12 soldiers against hundreds? Impossible. Yet the ruins of Kalos 7 stood as proof, and the silence of their dead comm towers whispered the truth. The special forces had come. From that day, war changed again. Regular human soldiers were feared for their endless courage. Now the special forces were feared for their silence and precision. Where the regulars stood and held the line, the shadows moved and erased entire garrisons. Together, they became a nightmare no empire wanted to face. The galaxy reacted with panic. Some rulers ordered their soldiers never to fight humans in small numbers. Others demanded stronger fortifications, higher walls, more lights in every base. But no wall was high enough, no light bright enough to keep out shadows that moved with human will. On the battlefields, alien soldiers whispered to one another before combat. "Beware the ghosts," they said. "Beware the ones you cannot see." Their fear grew heavier than their weapons. Even when fighting only regulars, their eyes searched the darkness, waiting for something unseen to strike. For the humans, this was only the beginning. They never spoke of their special forces, never boasted of their victories. They let the galaxy spread the fear by itself. Silence was their weapon, and terror grew with every rumor. Kalos 7 became legend. Its name was spoken in low voices in every war council. The phrase, "first contact with the shadow," spread across fleets and barracks. Everyone knew what it meant. The special forces were real. They were not rumor, not invention. They had arrived and they would come again. And somewhere in the quiet halls of human command, the leaders watched the fear spread. The galaxy was trembling before only a handful of warriors. But humanity knew the truth. Kalos 7 was not the greatest strike. It was only a test. The galaxy had seen shadows. It had not yet seen the storm. The galactic collapse of confidence, the destruction of Kalos 7, spread across the stars faster than any fleet could travel. In markets, in barracks, in war councils, the story was told again and again. 12 humans against hundreds, and not only had they survived, they had erased an entire base. For centuries, empires had trusted in numbers, in ships, in walls of steel and energy. Now those beliefs began to break. Commanders who once mocked humanity grew silent. Advisors who had sworn that humans were nothing more than reckless fighters began to tremble when the word "special forces" was spoken. They had already struggled to fight the regular armies, soldiers who never surrendered, never yielded. If even common soldiers were so terrifying, then what chance did they have against the shadows? Meetings turned into arguments. In the chambers of the Great Coalition, alien rulers shouted at one another. One demanded new weapons, another cried for peace. A third argued that humanity must be crushed before their special forces grew in number. But no one agreed on how to do it. Fear had stolen unity. The galaxy that had once stood proud now wavered like glass before a hammer. Soldiers felt the fear most. On front lines where human regulars advanced, alien soldiers looked over their shoulders, not at the army in front of them, but at the darkness around them. Any rustle of wind, any flicker of shadow, made them raise their rifles in panic. Even when no special forces were present, the idea of them was enough to break courage. Armies surrendered faster, fleets retreated sooner. The humans did not need to use their shadows often. Rumor did most of the work. One empire, proud and ancient, tried to deny the fear. Their leaders ordered their soldiers to laugh at the whispers, to stand firm against human armies. But when a single supply convoy vanished in one battle on the storm world of Ethos, the enemy prepared a fortress with walls thicker than mountains. Their generals swore no human army could enter. Yet as dawn rose, the defenders found their gates open from the inside. Officers had been cut down in their sleep. Ammunition stores exploded. Panic spread faster than fire. By the time the human regulars arrived, the defenders had already abandoned the fortress. No one ever proved it was the special forces, but everyone believed it. Confidence in galactic strength collapsed. No longer did alien rulers speak of conquering Earth. Instead, they spoke of surviving it. They had believed humanity to be young and weak. Yet now, even their oldest empires felt fragile. The question was not whether they could defeat humans. The question was whether they could endure them. An alien scholar wrote in despair, "We once believed strength was in our fleets, but fleets cannot fight shadows. We once believed courage was in our soldiers, but courage cannot stand against an enemy that never dies." The humans have broken the order of war. They have turned fear into their greatest weapon. The galaxy began to crumble under that weapon. Armies lost the will to fight. Empires lost faith in their rulers. Even whispers of special forces were enough to shatter defenses. Humanity had changed the balance forever. Yet unknown to the galaxy, what had been shown so far was still only the beginning. The special forces were real, but even they were not the final secret. Humanity carried deeper shadows, strategies, and warriors that the stars had not yet seen. The galaxy trembled before what it thought was the storm, never knowing that the true storm had yet to arrive. The final revelation: the galaxy believed it had seen the worst. It believed the special forces were the final shape of human power. Alien rulers told themselves that nothing could rise beyond the shadows that had already torn their armies apart. Yet they were wrong. The truth was colder, heavier, and far more terrifying. Humanity had always been patient. From the moment they first stepped beyond their world, they knew the galaxy was watching. The regulars were the first face they showed, stubborn, unyielding, willing to fight until the last breath. The special forces were the second face, precise, unseen, a nightmare that spread in silence. But behind these faces lay others, faces the galaxy had not yet seen and perhaps would never survive seeing. The first hints appeared in the aftermath of battles. Alien scouts exploring ruins found signs of weapons never fired, tunnels never used, and supply caches far larger than any unit needed. It was as if the humans had prepared for wars within wars, plans within plans. Some commanders whispered that the special forces themselves were only one layer of a much deeper machine. On the frontier world of Telora, an alien fleet captured a small human outpost. Inside, they discovered training halls underground, vast rooms where soldiers had been hardened beyond normal limits. The records they uncovered told of projects designed not only to create shadows, but storms, warriors built to adapt, to resist, to endure any world. The outpost was abandoned before it could be fully studied, but the message was clear. The special forces were not the end. They were the beginning. The revelation broke whatever hope remained. If the galaxy had already failed to stop the regulars, if it had already collapsed before a handful of shadows, what chance did it have against a storm still waiting behind them? Empires began to crumble not under human guns, but under their own fear. Citizens whispered of human armies they had never seen. Soldiers deserted to avoid wars that had not even begun. Leaders signed treaties before battles were fought, desperate to escape what might be coming. The humans themselves said nothing. They let the galaxy tremble,